Feeling lucky?
I'm guided by a force much greater than luck. I wonder if I'll be held responsible for this.
Hello, everyone. We are the D20 duo because that's the name that we came up with, and this is Questlog. I am one of your hosts, Legionkaje. Below me is MrWrong, aka Stefan.
Hello, hello, hello.
Yo.
You should have sent me that intro because we could have did that at the same time. And this is Questlog.
Yeah, I just made that up on the fly there, bud. You act like I have a plan here.
So we know for next time because that was good.
All right, we'll remember that for next time. There you go. We made history right now, folks, right in front of your face. So Questlog. Questlog is basically me and Stefan are playing through RPGs, aka role-playing games, in segments, and we're going to get together and discuss segments and put it exclusively here on YouTube because why not? Yeah. So the first game that we chose is Super Mario RPG from 1996 for the Super NES.
I was 4.
Damn youngin'. I was 12. And the Super NES was life. Okay.
Did you get this like the year it came out?
So I don't know for sure that I got it the year it came out, but I want to say yes, I did, because I know for a fact that I had this for the Super Nintendo.
Okay.
You know, and I should have grabbed it. I do actually own the actual cartridge, complete in box, even. It's not my.
It's gonna be worth a pretty penny if it's in the box and everything.
Oh yeah, it's not my original copy, sadly. Big shout outs to my stepmom when I got the N64 a couple years later. I gave my little brother the Super Nintendo, and she thought all the games I had for it were way too violent, so she went and traded them all in at the game exchange. So,
oh, what a bitch!
No, no, I love my stepmom. That was at the time that was a big point of contention. We haven't always had a great relationship. We have a very great relationship now. But I was a little upset about that
30
one.
30 years, yeah, I bet. 30 years, you could finally put it in the past. Like, I was 12.
Yeah,
you broke my heart.
Yeah, well, there was an outside influence that was unfortunately putting a damper on that. But this isn't a therapy session. This is a Questlog.
Hey, we can turn it into whatever we want.
You know what? That's fair. It's our fucking podcast, and we'll do what we want. You hear that, chat?
Yeah. You're not my dad.
Yeah. Did you have stepmommy issues when you were young? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
I was like, no, my parents are. Well, I can't say fine. But they're not divorced.
That's fair. Okay. So, anyways, you were 4 when this came out.
Yeah. So I did not play it ever in my life until now.
Okay, so this is your first playthrough of this game.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, obviously I know the hype about it. Like, I knew of it. Like, I knew it existed, everything. But I didn't get into gaming till I was well older. Like, probably, well, Pokemon. Honestly, Pokemon was probably one of the first games I ever played, or Final Fantasy. So, like, when those had came out Final Fantasy X was the first one, so that kind of puts the bar of where I started gaming. So I never even had the chance to play something like this because no one else in the family would have wanted it.
Okay, so Final Fantasy X, that's what, 2001, 2002?
Yeah, so literally I would have been 9 or 10. And I was able to save up enough money to buy myself that PS2 Slim.
2001.
2001. Yes. fantastic game.
So,
Yeah.
and if you were buying the PS2 Slim, because 2001 was the same year the PS2 came out, so then it still wasn't even like at
It was
launch,
still later
like
than
it was
that.
still late
Yeah.
for
Yeah, because
things.
yeah, I didn't get Final Fantasy right when it came out. It was probably like a year or two after because my brother was playing it, and I was like, I need this game.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So, you said you knew the hype around this game, particular Super Mario RPG. So, what besides us just kind of like randomly talking and shout out to the 3 Player Experience, another book club style podcast. Um, I was supposed to do a guest star thing with them about this game, and unfortunately, the scheduling is not working at all. So that's kind of why I wanted to play this game again. I've played it through 100 times. Like, what made you want to play it?
I these types of games, as because obviously we're going to be going through a lot of games from the past that are RPGs, and it's more. I know that the hype of them makes me curious enough to want to play them, but with how many games I'm currently already going through, I can't see myself just playing this by myself. It's something where I think I would have a much better experience playing this with somebody and reliving it, even though you've already played it, but you're reliving it essentially. So like for me, it's a brand new experience, and I'm learning like the fucking jumps in this game when you're trying to jump on the platforms is already killing me because I do not have that timing for the old systems because they're not right. That's not how they work. And I know that they had fixed it because there's that one part where there's the 2 of them going at the same time, and then while you were doing the remake, you still had that same problem because the
Yeah.
way they sway, you're just like, no, stop moving for 1 second, please. But I thought just experiencing this, it's a good game. Like, I have been loving it, but it was just something that I'm very hesitant because I also never really played the Mario games. I obviously played like the side scroller Marios, like Super Mario World and that, but I never played anything other than those.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't familiar with RPGs at the time. So like these now RPGs are fucking anything with like a leveling system where I can become overpowered as fuck. I'm going for. That's what I want to be. I want to be God.
That's fair. That's fair. And it's a funny thing about RPGs, and I see this meme all the time. It's like RPGs, chapter 1, save kitten, final chapter, defeat God, and it's like
My
how,
God.
like how the f did we get from save kitten to fight God? And that's part of the beauty of an RPG, and if you can be immersed enough to stay from find kitty to fight God. I feel like that's a good mark of an RPG. Also, silly things like, as you see on the video that is playing in the background here, bouncing on the bed, because why not? You can bounce on the bed in this game. It's fun.
Also, I feel like if this, which obviously on the Switch, they don't have achievements for like the remake,
I wish they
but
did.
yeah, exactly. I wish they did. I really love finding those little Easter egg achievements that they put in there. So like bounce on the bed like 10 times. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I did a thing. I feel acknowledged that I did something the game developers were talking about. Praise me. I did a thing.
Yes.
So I feel like if the Switch actually added, which you might remember, I don't remember. Did the Switch 2 announcement introduce
No.
achievements? Or they introduced a lot, but I feel like that's something they need to integrate.
I would agree. And we could spend a whole other podcast really talking about the Switch 2 reveal and launch. And I actually did a live stream of the Switch 2 announcements.
Yeah.
In which we discuss things kind of in real time. But I really wish Nintendo would bring some kind of achievement / trophy system to the Switch 2. I'm sure there's a whole slew of reasons and infrastructure that would need to be redone in order to make it happen. So I get it. I understand it. It still just kind of sucks. Like I really wish they would do it. Shout out to retroachievements.org because the way I'm playing this so I can capture the game is I am using full disclosure, I am using an emulator. I'm using it legally because I own the game. But this emulator with retro achievements does have an actual achievement list that I can do and get achievements for. And as we go through this game, especially if those listening are playing, watching in the background, this is my gameplay. You might see retro achievement pop up across the bottom of the screen at some point. I'm not going to 100% the game. We already discussed that because unfortunately, as we played through, we already missed one of the hidden chests that you cannot get any other time.
I honestly debated starting over so I could find it.
And that's truly fair.
But the item itself, like you had said, is something that realistically we're gonna find enough of that it's not
just a
big
frog
deal
coin,
if we
yeah.
miss it. Yeah, so it's not a huge thing. And to get off topic just slightly, for the other game systems that do have achievements, are the achievements the same regardless? As long as it's the same game, do like Xbox, PlayStation, and like Steam, because all three of them have achievements. If you play the same game, do you get the same achievements for each one? Because I didn't know if the achievement was based on like the game developers added those achievements and then they just integrate it. Because I feel like if the Switch did that, it would be really easy to integrate it. They just need to make that system.
I think that's part of it. They would need to decide it because a lot of games on the Switch are exclusive to the Switch. It's one of the beautiful things about the Nintendo Switch is that the exclusives, which like at this point, Microsoft no longer really has true exclusives anymore. They come out on both Microsoft and or like the Xbox and the PC, if not the other consoles at this point. And PlayStation has some. What?
Could you imagine getting achievements in Pokemon? You caught 10 Pokemon. You've completed your national dex.
I mean, we'll talk offline, and I'll look up the retro achievements list for Pokemon.
Oh, that's fair.
For the Game Boy Advance Pokemons. But I believe, and don't quote me on this, I do believe that for the most part, the achievements are the same across the board. The difference is that I know for a fact, PlayStation has at least one that the others won't have, and that's the Platinum Trophy, which is getting all the achievements, or all the trophies, I should say.
Oh, and Xbox's is getting the Diamond.
Oh, do they have like something for getting everything now? I didn't realize they had something for getting everything. They didn't on the Xbox 360. My experience with Xbox One and is very low, and the Series SX, none. So, but that was going to be the second part. I know that they added dynamic achievements on the Xbox One. That if that mostly their games, like their in-house games,
like Halo.
Yeah, would have like weekly achievements that you could get, type of thing that kind of changed out. So
I didn't know that existed either.
Yeah,
but I know with Xbox, which every time you got an achievement, you'd get the beep, and then you'd see a little diamond, and then what the achievement was, and then if you completed everything, I believe you got like this rainbow diamond. I might be wrong on that, but I haven't played Xbox for fucking ever because mine doesn't work with the streaming anymore. So I was like, fuck it. I have so many other things that I can play. It's fine. But I didn't know if the achievements were universal per se. But I didn't know that there was like weekly achievements you could get too. Because like, what would be the point of that?
Yeah, I mean, well, it
if it changes out, you don't gain anything.
Well, there are achievement hunters who want their gamer score to go up, because that was the thing on Xbox, was gamer score. Like, you got points for each
Oh,
achievement. So if you wanted to do something that kept your gamer score going up, if you were already playing the game that week anyways or whatever, or if it's a game that was kind of like a living game that you could go back to, um, that would be a thing. Like we'll use Fallout 76 for example, right? That's an
yep.
ever-changing world. Hypothetically, if it had dynamic achievements, as they were called, um, you might, oh, okay, there's a new achievement this week for my character I can do,
Gotcha.
and so you get
Well,
on and
I
you
with
play around
Fallout
with that.
76, I think of like the
Yeah,
weeklies.
same
It's
basic
kind of like that.
premise. Yeah,
You actually get something from that though. I
true.
feel like with with the active achievements, it feels like that's just a flex. Like I'm such a gamer. My flex. Look at my score.
Yeah, that's pretty much all achievements were when they were first introduced, anyways. So,
Oh my god.
but hey, anyways, we're off topic. So,
It's gonna happen.
yeah,
ADHD.
we are very tangent oriented here. I've been a part of many different podcasts over the course of the past few years, and thankfully, every single host that I've had is also very tangent oriented. So get used to that here with the D20
Yeah.
duo. So since it's your first playthrough, and you were playing a
Yes.
game from 1996 on the Super Nintendo, right? And
Yeah.
this is late. This is late Super Nintendo, honestly, because in '96, I believe the N64 had come out that same year. I think
Okay.
this came out like literally a couple months before the N64 did. Period. So it was late '64. So not a lot of people got to play this, anyways. But
Oh,
what are your first impressions of the game, graphics wise, gameplay wise, compare it to other RPGs that you've played in the past? What are your impressions here?
my so I did play obviously like the regular Mario. So like I played the Nintendo, I played the Sega. Like I I am used to the old-fashioned games. So I liked the retro look of it as a because it was like nostalgic, like just going back to this style of game. I had not played one just for RPGs in total, like the leveling system on this threw me off where when we leveled up, you could tell the difference because you only get three options and only one of them was worth taking. So that kind of threw me off where you have to take this one because it's better. And then the next time you level up, this one's the better one. And then you just cycle through instead of like actually being able to have an equal opportunity to increase just like if you wanted your strength to get +3 every time, you could just take that. So that was a little bit different of figuring out like how to because the way that we're doing it already is our character is just going to be completely fully balanced, which is great. It works, but only having the three options kind of took me back a little bit. I was like, okay, so by end game, our defense, attack, and HP are all going to be balanced enough. But you had told me like the final boss is going to be a bitch regardless of what we do.
Well, now if you have your way, so the level cap, unlike most other RPGs, the level cap in this game is only level 30. If we get all the way to
Yeah.
level 30, so I don't think it'll be that big of a pain. I typically don't get to 30 in my playthroughs. Um, uh, so I shouldn't say the final boss will be a bitch no matter what, but
True.
um,
Well, we're only on chapter 2 and we're both level 10 for everything, so we're already 1/3 of the way there and we have 6 chapters left.
yeah, but you got to
So,
remember XP. The gaps increase exponentially too, and I should say that the things you're talking about there, those are only bonuses. Like your character will still they get stat growths at every level no matter what.
yeah, yeah.
So, but it is just like a bonus, but you're right. It is something different that wasn't in other RPGs of the time. Um, for me,
But
trying
I
to
think
think.
it's still nice.
Oh yeah, no, I agree, and it will allow you to build your character because, again, since it's just a bonus, like if you want your character to be optimized, you should do what we're doing, but you don't have to either. You could
No.
just sit there and take attack every single time, and you're getting that bonus every single time.
Hmm.
So you could just, make Mario an absolute attacking beast and ignore his
Almost.
his special. I mean, his special is going to still be powerful, but you're just going to be better with attacking. And I've known people that have done that in their runs. Hell, I've done that in a run too with Mario because I will keep Malo, who we're going to meet soon here in the Mushroom Kingdom, as part of my party, and he's definitely not a physical attacker, even if you beef
Oh
him
no.
up. He's definitely more oriented to using his specials, whether it's the his first special Thunderbolt to damage enemies or his HP Rain to heal you. Same with Princess Peach that you get much later in the game, and that's not a spoiler. I think you're already well
Spoilers.
aware of that. Well, technically, I
Spoilers.
mean they show her in the intro that
Yeah.
you're gonna get her as a party member. So,
Yep.
um, speaking of, let's kind of jump down here to we have a little list. Jump down a couple points here. So
We need
what?
the list to stay on track.
Pretty much. What are your thoughts on the party so far? Let's start with obviously our main character here. As you can see, the level up bonus happening in the background. Um, what are your thoughts about Mario? Not as a character in pop culture in general, but like being converted from those side-scrolling games, where it's literally just you bounce on a damn turtle and the turtle kicks the bucket, to a turn-based RPG character. What are your thoughts with Mario?
So, question first. So, obviously, the original Mario side scroller was first in this. Is there any other games that were similar where all of a sudden they just decided to switch it to an RPG? Because obviously he was not RPG whatsoever to begin with, and then they came out with this and made it into an RPG. Were there any other games that even had the thought of doing that? Because that would mean like this is one of the original where they're like, let's change this to do this. But again, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah. No, so okay, so no, I think that's actually a really good question. To this exact extent, let's say not that I can think of, okay? To this exact like turn-based extent.
Mhm.
Um, I don't want to go as far as saying this is the first of its kind because I don't necessarily think it is. If you're watching this video and you know of a different example that would be more apropos to what we're saying here, leave us below in the comments. Let us know, tell us, and we'll
Yeah, I'm
discuss it
curious
on the next
because
thing. Um,
with everything that we fight, like everything is true to the Mario world,
mhm.
but it's just it takes a turn into more of a you're not just jumping simply on a Koopa and then it just becomes flat. Like it actually has HP. There's certain amount of damage you got to do to it. So like they completely changed the format of looking at Mario in general, where in the side scroller he hits one thing, instant dead, and now things actually have more of a lifeline. So I think going through because Mario already from the get go is overpowered, and then coming to this, it balances Mario's field also, where it makes it just slightly more challenging.
Yeah. The example that I was going to bring up that came right to mind as you were asking that question is
Mm-hmm.
Castlevania 2 for the NES. So
Okay.
the NES is a little notorious for those that are unfamiliar because the NES came out, back in 1985. Um, it's a long fucking time ago.
I wasn't born.
I was a year old. Um, I want to say it was 1985, anyways. I digress. So the NES was very notorious in the United States for having games
Mhm.
and then having a sequel to the game that was completely different. Three games that automatically come to my head in that regard are Super Mario Brothers 2,
Mhm.
Castlevania 2, as we are about to discuss, and then Zelda 2. And I almost wanted to say Zelda 2 like as an answer to your question, but the first Zelda game still had a RPG element to it, really, like in terms of you're questing around, you're trying to find the items, you're trying to increase your life, and go after the bad guy. Whereas Zelda or Castlevania 2 had an actual XP system in it,
Okay.
and as you killed things, I believe it was more so not killing the enemies themselves. No, it was killing the enemies. You could increase
But they
your
weren't
level.
turn-based,
It was not turn
right?
based. No, no.
Okay.
It'd be more along the lines of what would end up becoming called Metroidvania.
Yep.
But for the purposes of your question, I feel like it's an appropriate answer, if that makes sense. Um, because it,
No,
it
I
was
get
a
the leveling
stark
system of that.
departure from what the original game was.
Yes. Yeah, no. That makes sense. I say I understand your reasoning with that. I was more along the lines of Mario was a side scroller and then all of a sudden switched to turn-based actual RPG, whereas I'm not familiar with a whole lot of games from that time. So I don't know if there were games that were set up, obviously not exactly like Mario where it's a side scroller, but games that were completely not into a leveling system whatsoever, and then all of a sudden it switched into a leveling system
Yeah.
where you actually have turn based and like all of that stuff. Because I feel like this is one of the ones where Mario is so big. Like it's one of the head games of Nintendo where them switching to this kind of out of nowhere generated probably a lot of hype at the time.
And so, yeah, I would say you're definitely not wrong in that regard. Um, a couple things that worked against it, and eh, you know, yeah, I know Castlevania was not,
A Mario movie probably worked
exactly.
against it.
Well, we don't talk about that. Fun fact, actually, I bought the original Super Mario Brothers movie on DVD today at Goodwill.
Really? We
Yeah,
just sold it on thrift sale because I owned it. We sold it
nice.
for 50 cents.
Well, damn, should have sold it to me, you bastard. Uh,
Well, we had a guy buy 53 movies. He literally came in and bought all of our horror movies all at once. He's like, I'll take all of them.
I don't blame him. That's
Go for it.
that's actually something I typically do look for at like thrift sales is horror movies. But you know me, I'm a big horror fan, obviously, and I
Yeah.
I like a lot of the B horror movies too. So I like seeing the weird stuff. I've actually found some real great classics. Classic, maybe not the right word. I don't know. I found some real great horror movies that I've gotten from like Goodwill, thrift sales,
Mhm.
the exchange, things like that. But again, that we could fill a whole other podcast with that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so Mario being a huge like icon already in the second generation of console, um, I feel like it was a smart move because Square, obviously now Square Enix, at the time, they were struggling to have RPGs here kind of in the United States, right?
Okay.
Um, you know, on the Super Nintendo, we had Final Fantasy 2, 3, and then Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. They had other RPGs as well, but I'm going to use Final Fantasy as the example just because Final Fantasy is the biggest, like, arguably the biggest RPG franchise, right?
Yeah.
Um, but Final Fantasy 2 and 3 were not 2 and 3. They were actually 4 and 6
Yeah, for us.
because Square Enix didn't bring any of the others over because they thought that Americans weren't really interested in it, despite the fact that Final Fantasy 1 did well for them in the United States on the NES. They just kind of skipped around a little bit. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest is not even technically a Final Fantasy game. Like, it's, if I remember correctly,
Oh.
it's actually part of a different series. It's called Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, but it's only Final Fantasy Mystic Quest here. In Europe, if I remember correctly, it's just Mystic Quest, and in Japan, it came out in Japan after the United States, which was very different from the typical approach here. In Japan, it was known as Final Fantasy USA Mystic Quest. So, like, because it was supposed to be an easier, dumbed down version
Oh, of course.
for them.
We're not smart enough.
Yeah. For us. So yeah, it's a spin-off to Square's Final Fantasy series of games. Um, okay, so it's still considered part of the Final Fantasy series overall, so I misspoke in that regard. But yeah, it's supposed to be a spin-off. Obviously, it's not part of the numbered series at all. Um,
Hmm.
do 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 do. Garden for the
Well,
U.S. market.
all of, I mean, all of the tactics aren't part of the main series either.
Correct. They are their own specific series.
Do the tactics game have an order as well, or are they all just completely random?
So tactics would, to answer that question, it'd be more apropos to talk about the Ivalice Alliance overall, which also includes the Final Fantasy 12 games, as well as Vagrant Story. In terms of like an actual timeline, but it's a very loose timeline at best.
Okay.
Final Fantasy Tactics on the PlayStation 1 is not related to Tactics Advance and Tactics Advance 2. But those are, I believe, directly related to each other. It's been I never played all the way through Tactics Advance because it pissed me off because of how they changed it from Tactics, like the original Tactics. But I did play through quite a bit of Tactics A2. I couldn't tell you if I actually beat it or not. It's on my list to eventually play again, but I digress. So yeah, going back to like the original question, I do believe this was the kind of like the first like major jump into a turn-based RPG, and there have been other games that have followed suit. If I remember correctly, Sonic the Hedgehog does have a RPG game. I think it's Sonic Chronicles. I think it was for the DS. I believe is a turn-based RPG. But I know that
Oh,
I'm sure that if I were to look, there have been other like franchises that have made a jump into a turn-based RPG at some point. Some with better results than others. Again, this one kind of, because it came out during the end of the lifespan of the Super Nintendo, had a bit of it was very well received, but it probably would have done better had they brought it out sooner, or maybe even waited till the N64. Now, they did release a pseudo sequel or spiritual successor, if you will, with Paper Mario. The Paper Mario series is basically supposed to be the continuation of Super Mario RPG, but it plays very, very differently, and we don't count it. Fans don't count it. Like, don't get me wrong, Paper Mario is good stuff. Paper Mario is good stuff, but fans don't count it as a true sequel. And to be honest, I'm hoping with the remake that they just came out with for the Switch, I am hoping that they will look at that and give us a true sequel. What happened to this world after we left it? What happened with Malo? Will we get to see more of Gino? That kind of thing. So
Yeah, because Gino alone, like, apparently so many people in the community love Gino so much, and they're surprised that hasn't even showed up in like Smash Brothers, even though they bring so many other characters that are forgotten. Gino would be a really nice addition to Smash Brothers, honestly, because even though I've only met him for a little bit, I think he's fucking cool.
Yeah, we can kind of segue that into the other things here. But yeah, Gino and Malo both are, I believe, exclusive to this game. Neither have made a true appearance in any other game beyond this. If you're watching this, you can fact check me and you can let us know in the comments. But let's save Gino for a second because he's chapter 2 technically. What are your thoughts about Malo? I mean, let's jump right at it. We get the revelation as we start chapter 2 once we're down to Tadpole Pond that he's not a frog. Like, I mean, it's crazy, right? This giant like ball of white fluff is not actually a green hoppy frog.
Yeah, no, which, even though this is my first playthrough of it, I called it out so many times that he looks nothing like a frog. You're like, no, he's a frog. Like, you're trying to save it. Like, no, spoiler. I'm like, he's clearly a fucking cloud. Like, he's a Nimbus cloud or some shit. I don't know. But he's not a frog, that's for sure. I was like, he's doing thunder damage. Like, he's a cloud. He's 100% a cloud Nimbus. I don't know. But he, I don't know how old he's supposed to be, but like, I'm assuming he's an adolescent. He's probably not necessarily like a child, but he's young for sure.
I would imagine whatever the equivalency of a teenager would be.
Yeah, that was my thought, because he's old enough to know certain things, but he's still kind of a crybaby. So he's definitely probably in his teenage years. But when we first get him, like, he's cute. He's a cute little guy who is definitely not understanding where he comes from, because he's like, I look different. He's the ugly duckling.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, I think that's a good way to put it. And yeah, I mean, and he even makes reference to it that he's a frog, but he can't jump.
Yep.
In the cutscene with Croco, where he's trying to get his coin back, like Croco jumps up somewhere and he can't jump, and that's what prompts the crying. Then you go forward and you Tadpole Pond, and of course Frog Fuchsius in the original game, the Frog Sage in the remake. He reveals that he found him floating in a basket down the river. So obviously that's going to be part of our adventure later on. I know that, spoiler wise, that of course we are going to end up meeting his parents and finding out what happened with all of that. I don't think that's I can say that's a spoiler, but anyone who's played an RPG game before can kind of deduct that we're going
that's gonna happen.
We're
gonna find out his backstory a little bit more.
Yeah. So,
also, another thing that proves that he's not a frog, his body when he does the thunder splits in half,
From his pants.
but his legs still walk.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how does his legs work? Because he clearly rips himself in half when he's casting magic.
Oh, you've never seen a cloud part before?
But his legs stay on the ground.
Well, yeah, but he
And
just
then he just reconnects to it like
Yeah.
a fucking Lego.
well, he's a he's a cloud. He's a ball of fluff.
Yeah. So he
So.
just he separates his body and then he causes his cloud to go fill the legs up to walk again.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can go with that. We need to dissect him and find out how he works.
Ah. But yeah, Malo, and he gives us our first taste of an AoE spell with his Thunderbolt, so that's kind of nice. We
And
get,
it's not weak either. Like his Thunderbolt's actually pretty strong right at the beginning.
if you figure out the timing, and
I
there's
figured out
part of the timing.
very well, but Mario's timing sucks.
Yeah, you're not so good at that.
No, his super jump is so fucking hard. I don't get it. Like I cannot get the timing down on the super jump. The regular jump, I'm fine.
I get it. You'll get it. You'll get it. So let's move on to in chapter 2. We got Gino, who again is arguably the favorite character of this game. Period.
The Star Child.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Gino obviously inhabiting the body of a doll of a kid in Rosetown, I believe it was, and he is sent to help, or he is sent to gather the stars back to repair the Star Road, and basically recruits Mario and Malo at the time to do so. I mean, what are your initial thoughts on Gino there?
I really like his character design because it's obviously it's not Pinocchio, but
It's kind of
feel
Pinocchio.
it's kind of Pinocchio. It's like a nod to Pinocchio, honestly, because like he has the big nose, he's a puppet, he's wooden, and then he becomes a real boy. So it's basically not a Pinocchio. So adding that in, and for him to basically have a finger gun is amazing. He's just like pew pew pew,
Mm-hmm.
that it's done. So I think that's really neat, and you will know this, but when we get to the point where we actually get to learn more about him, I'm very curious about that because he said that he is essentially an angel from the stars. Like he's a celestial being, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious where that really ties in because in the rest of the Mario series, that's never discussed about star creatures other than like the superstar that gives you invincibility for a time period. That's the only other thing that could, like, those stars might be from the Star Road realm, but other than that, there's like no information. Like, so that's a very new concept of there are higher beings in the Mario world.
Fair, and the Star Road itself is not a new revelation in the Mario realm, having already been featured at this point in time in Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo, and then it's been featured in multiple games after that. To my knowledge, the Star Road is there, but I believe you're right. I don't think they really ever talk about, the people or creatures or whatever you want to call them that run the Star Road, other than this game here. So,
Well, I should actually backtrack on that just for the fact that it's the Mario game where he goes into space and meets Rosalie or whatever.
Rosalina is
Yeah,
Galaxy.
Yeah, so Star Galaxy could Star Galaxy, because she's a princess of space or something, right? I never played that one either, so I don't
Something
know
like
anything
that.
about that. So if that's the case, could the celestial beings be somewhere more with the galaxy? I could see that tying in a little bit, but there's not really anything other than because Rosalie has that little star
Rosalina.
that Rosalina has that little star that follows her around. So could we not deduce, but could we what's the fucking word? Could we guess essentially that the little star that follows her around could be one of those celestial spirits like Gino?
That's honestly a good question. You kind of could. And most people would probably, argue that because of the way the Mario games are set up, in that regard, very similar to Final Fantasy, where every Final Fantasy is like a different world, a different universe, parallel universes, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how the Mario games are all set up. Very few of them seem to actually have anything to do with each other, as we are treated always to different versions of, the Mushroom
Events.
Kingdom, or like however, like whatever world that Mario is in.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean that's I think I'm gonna have to write that down and do some research maybe for next time to see if there's like any fan theories about. I think it's Loomis is the star that she keeps with her.
Okay.
This thing said, I am very unfamiliar with Super Mario Galaxy personally.
I know
So
nothing other than what Game Grumps did because that's it. Game Grumps played it and I had it on in the background. Other
gotcha,
than that, I don't know shit about any of the Mario games other than the side scrollers.
gotcha. Yeah,
Very lacking information.
I'll have to check that out.
I think it's
We'll
an
do that
interesting
offline.
concept.
Yeah, it could be. Could be. Always an opportunity to create a fan theory.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, so we have our first two party members of five, and again, that's not really a spoiler. It's been out there long enough, and they show them in the like intro trailer, so you know that
Yeah.
our eventual other two characters are going to be Bowser and Princess Peach. You just don't know how that happens just yet.
Mhm.
As we discussed when we were playing, uh, Mario has to always be a member of the party. That's common fare for role playing games where your main hero always has to be a member of your party. But we're going
I
to end
don't
up
like it.
but we're going to end up with two other characters. So basically the four characters that we get, we can split easy
Mhm.
peasy, so that way we can both have a unique game experience. Given what you know now about the two characters that we do have, and knowing nothing about the other two characters other than they are Bowser and Princess Peach,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts initially? And I'm not locking you into this, so don't worry. But
Okay.
what are your thoughts initially about? Do you think Malo and or Gino will make it to your endgame party?
I I like both of them enough, but I also don't know what Bowser and Peach can do. Like depending on how their what their combat situation is, like that'll definitely affect my thought process on it. But I do really like Malo. Like I think because I'm a mage. Personally, I go for a magic. I
Mm-hmm.
typically do not ever go brawn. It's just not me. I want the magic. I want the sparkles. So I think Malo probably will end be somewhat end game for me. Based on the personality types, I feel like Peach probably would be more of a magic person, and Bowser would also be like a heavy hitter. Like he's a tank, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
But also kind of like Daddy Bowser.
That's fair.
So we'll see. But just depending on the way it works out, as much as I really do like the way Gino is, I think I want to specialize around the magic properties of the game because that's just my unique experience with most games, if I find a magic caster and I like their personality, they're gonna become OP versus anybody else in my party. That they are getting this special treatment. They are teacher's pet. They're gonna get all my love and affection.
Fair, fair, absolutely fair. I think as I've played this game multiple times, I don't think I can really go wrong with having any of the particular characters in my party. I will be honest, I think Malo is probably one of my least used characters. So, but yeah, I mean that's it. We've still got a while before we have all 5 that we can actively switch in and out.
Right.
So we don't have to worry about that just yet. I do know that I will at least at some point want Gino in my party. Again, not really spoilers. We're gonna fight that giant sword at some point that crashed into
Right.
Bowser's Keep. And Gino has a move that I don't know if it was an intentional program or what, but it's called the Gino Whirl. And if you hit it perfectly, you will do 10,000 damage
Jesus.
to anything. I think except for Smithy, I think is the only enemy that will not take 10,000 damage from it. But I could be wrong even in that. It's been a while since I've like looked at the whole Gino Whirl, I don't know, controversy.
That's
If you
still a
want,
lot of damage considering we only get up to level 30.
Yep.
And the standard amount of damage is 9,999 is max.
well, that is what it hits. I just used 10,000 to avoid saying 9,999 because I was being lazy.
Okay.
But one of the retro achievements is to hit the sword with Gino Whirl for max damage. So he'll be in my party for that just because I want to do that.
Right.
But yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how we go around with parties.
Yeah.
So we're gonna
But
end
that's
up.
still crazy. If he can do that much damage, is he the only one that's
Yes.
able to do that much damage just from that one attack?
Yep. And that's why
'Cause it
people
was-
think it wasn't a proper program, that it was more of a glitch than anything.
Oh, okay.
So
Nice.
as we're gonna wind down here in the next few minutes, I want to talk real quick about the boss characters that we've been introduced to thus far. Again, I forgot how much we just sat and ran around the mushroom way grinding in the background here, so it's just literally been grinding in the background there. So we've hit 5 bosses so far, 2 of which have been part of the Smithy gang. And then just a couple other little bosses. I don't really feel like we need to talk about the Hammer Bros that much. They are technically
were
a boss,
the
but
introductionary boss.
yeah,
Like, it's just the concept of there's bosses in this game. Here you are. Because I think both of us took him down in like 2 rounds.
yeah.
Like, it did not take long. But also, again,
We were like
as
level
you can see from
7 by the time
gameplay,
we did
we
it.
were grinding. We were supposed to be level 3, and we ended up being level 6 and 7. So
yeah,
we were a little overpowered already.
a little bit. So let's talk about the non-Smithy gang bosses, and there's a reason why I want to bring them up specifically, and it's because I don't know if you caught this. Neither one technically died. Croco and Balome. So Croco, obviously, we fought to get Malo's coin back in Bandit Way. Yep. The little purple like dinosaur, almost Yoshi looking, but with
just a raptor.
Like yeah. So he straight up ran away.
Yeah.
At the end of that fight. So it's very
like, fuck this shit, I'm out.
Exactly. So it's very safe to assume that we were going to run into him again. And yeah, spoilers, we will. And then there was Balome, who kind of hinted that you hadn't seen the last of him. And again, spoilers, we haven't. So what are your thoughts on Croco and Balome there as characters that are being introduced in Super Mario RPG as bosses that we're going to encounter more than once?
Did not know we were gonna encounter them again. I thought they were just part of subplot to introduce the characters in general.
Spoilers, Mr. Wrong doesn't pay that close attention.
How that had nothing to do with it. I knew they didn't die, but at the same time, I didn't know that they would show up again because I feel like he stole the coin and then he bolted. So the odds of him coming back were, in my mind, slim. It was more like, this is the little issue we have with Malo. Help Malo. He's part of your party. This guy's gone. And then Balom, before we even started recording, I was like, who's Balom? Who's this guy?
You completely
When did we
forgot
fight
him,
this
period.
person? Oh yeah, no, I still don't know who he is. You said we fought him, and I just agreed. I was like, yeah, I remember fighting a boss in the sewers, but I don't remember what he looked like. it it hasn't even been that long, but I wasn't paying attention to his name. I'm really trying hard
Hold
to
on.
think of thinking of the sewer fight. And all I remember is trying to jump on that platform and I kept landing in the water. I'm like, fuck you. Get to the place.
I don't know how well you can see that because of my light.
Oh yeah.
That thing.
Dog.
I guess it's more of a dog than a cat, yeah.
He looks like a loaf of bread, but that's not cooked. He looks like a dog.
A dog. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I do remember, only based on seeing the image. I do not apparently remember the fight that we did, but I'm assuming we were overpowered where we killed him in 2 shots and then it was irrelevant. So
I don't think it was
also,
quite
your
2
camera
shots.
got real blurry.
Of course it did.
It's just fuzz. Face palming the camera did not help it. Stop hailing Hitler.
Wow. We
But
do
while you
things.
fix your technical problems, with Balom also, I don't remember what his issue was.
Oh, he was
What?
just the
What was the
guardian
point
of the
of us
sewer.
fighting him?
He was the guardian of the sewer, and he was hungry.
Okay, he's a sewer troll. Got it.
Pretty much.
He's just a sewer rat running around. Okay, so that tells me we're gonna end up in another sewer somewhere. I assume.
Who says we won't revisit Kira sewers? Who says he won't come out of the sewers?
Oh, do we have to backtrack a bunch?
Well, so I was gonna bring this up about Balom in general, and I'll be honest with you, I don't remember where we face him again. I want to say it's a different part of Kira sewers, but I could be wrong. Here's something that you should probably keep in mind as we go through retro RPGs. Okay, they reuse a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. All right. It's not uncommon for RPGs to see enemies that were bosses at one point as a standard enemy later in the game because you've become significantly more powerful. It's not uncommon for them to reuse their sprites or things of that nature.
Color texture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And reuse them as different bosses or things of that nature. So,
like the Shy Guys, they're all different colors.
Yeah, and that will happen in this game, but with certain things, they were able to like give you an extra boss fight effectively by, just reusing literally the same character for a different part of the story. So, but
makes sense.
And here we're in the Mushroom Kingdom finally in the background video. Long
jumping
story.
On a kid jumping on the bed.
Damn right. Fuck that kid. We are gonna face. We probably won't get to it in this particular video just because this is just in the background happening. We're discussing things, but we faced 2 members of Smithy's gang thus far. So we faced Mac, who apparently his name is changed in the remake to Clay Morton. I'm not really sure. That one didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Like, Mac wasn't offensive. Like maybe Frog Fuchsius would be. But They changed his name, but he's basically this guy, and playing the original, I thought it was actually like this giant dagger looking thing, but no, it's a guy riding a giant dagger looking thing that you fight. And then there's Bowyer, who we face in the forest maze, that was a little bit different, and he was a bit of a different story in terms of a fight. Actually made you think a little bit more. But so what are your thoughts? Like, last couple questions here. What are your thoughts about Mac? Like, what were your thoughts about that fight? Like, the first real fight for a star.
Easy peasy.
We were a little OP. I mean, you know.
He wasn't a threat. Honestly, he wasn't a threat. The way, because, again, I feel like if I wasn't the type of person who explored every nook and cranny of an area before I left it, because they don't make this area just for no reason. I should explore it just in case there's something there. Like, I just gotta know. And with that, and knowing that in my past, when I played RPGs, I did not do the leveling systems correctly. Because I won't lie, during Final Fantasy X, if you recall, by the time you get to where you do the Blitzball tournament and then you're done with it, I had never leveled up any of the characters on the grid. And I didn't know. Again, I was young. I was 10, 10 or 11. I didn't know that that was part of the game.
Oh.
So I literally just kept leveling up, and I kept just going through the game, but I couldn't progress because I kept dying because I never leveled anything up, because I was just like, I'm so underpowered, I don't get it. But like, now I can fly through the game with zero issues because I understand the concept. So with taking that knowledge of leveling up the characters and everything and just being ahead of the curve, facing him, I was expecting a lot more challenge for him to hit me really hard, but with the ability to dodge attacks or lower the effect of the attack, we weren't taking hardly any damage. So he was just an obstacle in my way. That was the most I took out of it. Boyer, on the other hand, he had a little more significance for me.
Oh, you got real pissed off, if I remember correctly, when he locked one of the commands.
Yeah. I was like, no, fuck you. You're down. Let me do my thing. So like, he actually had like a skill that actually affected you, where it wasn't just hit him a bunch, hit him a bunch, hit him a bunch. He actually made you have to change your tactics in order to do it, which I did appreciate after the fact, because I wanted to kill him. But though his character design in that, of like being a legit, he what were those, like the little cat toy with the string and then the fuzz, and then you just kind of like wiggle around? He reminds me of one of those with just the string attached to his butt.
Fair. Yeah, so and obviously, because again, it won't play, and I do apologize to anyone who has stuck with us this long of the podcast here, because you stuck with us, but yes, very appreciated. But we don't have any. I don't have any footage of the Bowyer fight, unfortunately, because I forgot to save the second play. But Bowyer will lock one of the 3 action buttons during your fight, whether it's your attack command, your item command, or your special move command, basically forcing you to theoretically play completely different from what you've been doing. If you've just been sitting there using your specials the whole game, and that's what you've been relying on, now you have to just do standard attacks. So that could be very different. It's probably not as huge of a thing for some people who for probably most players who vary everything. But it adds a little bit of an intrigue by locking the commands, and that's not the. I don't think it was the first time that an RPG game
No,
has
it's
ever
not a
done
new
that.
concept or anything, because like Final Fantasy, they had tons of things.
Yeah.
Silence, like all of that were completely blocked out your spells. So like you had to switch up, or I believe block, where it just negated any physical attack to begin with. So like definitely not a new concept per se, but
Mm-hmm.
it was the first time in this instance where it was new to the gameplay, where all of a sudden you need to change tactics because Malo can't punch worth a shit,
He is pretty fucking weak, yeah.
and Gino is kind of just a well-rounder where he could attack and it does a good amount of damage, or it can do special and do a good amount of damage. Whereas Mario definitely is a physical attacker, and his specials obviously do good too, but it's based on your timing.
Yeah. Yeah, Mario is definitely based more on your ability to continuously repeat the timing aspect of things. Whereas at that point in time, you had just gotten Gino in the actual fight with Bowyer, and you only have Geno Beam, which is literally just hold down the button to charge the beam up. Um,
Yep.
and then Malo at that point just has, theoretically, just has Thunderstorm, and you just need to worry about your timing with that.
Yep.
Excuse me. And the nice thing about Thunderstorm is, as we already kind of discussed, and it was very useful in the Mac fight, is your first real AOE spell, um, and it really, in my opinion,
Mac had
for
multiple opponents in that
yeah,
fight.
he had a lot of the
So using the
shysters.
thunder to get rid of them so you could just focus on the one, very helpful.
Hmm. And if you're mildly leveled, like one timed thunderstorm will destroy the shysters in one, like they will one shot it and like even stun Mac for a turn. So it's very, very nice and very useful. But
Oh, can thunder stun? I don't think I realized
I think
that.
I think it only stuns Mac, to be
Oh,
honest.
okay.
But there may be other enemies or bosses later that, like, if a timed thunderstorm may do it, but
Stun
I,
them
I
also.
honestly don't know. Again, Malo is actually my least used character, so there's quite a possibility. And I didn't know the proper timing for Thunderstorm until
Oh.
I was an adult. So
So I got Malo completely down. Like Malo, I understood, I got the timing. Mario, not so much, which proves I'm a magic user. I'm not a strength user.
fair, fair. But so yeah, I think that's all we got for today's episode. We will be back at some point here in the very near future. We're going to be playing part 3 on our respective Twitch channels, which you can find below in the description. If you don't already follow us on Twitch and you want to come check out the gameplay portion of things live, please feel free to do so. Beyond that, you know the deal. This is YouTube. Like, subscribe, make sure you click the notification button so you get my videos regularly. I will also link MrWrong's personal YouTube channel in this description below, so make sure you drop him a follow too, or a sub here on YouTube that's called.
Like, follow, and obey.
Damn. Uh, but,
It's from Borderlands 3.
see, I haven't played 3 yet. Spoilers,
Yeah.
we're playing through Borderlands with our friend Ingledoom. Shout out to Ingledoom.
Yeah.
Love you, bud.
Love them too.
But yeah, until next time, we are the D20 duo. This is Questlog for Super Mario RPG from the Super Nintendo from 1996. We hope to see you again soon. Take care.
And we out.